Welcome back to another edition of the Fanatics View Hockey Show. As I just choked there. What a way to start this show. My name is James Lynch. Happy to be joined once again by my good friend Andrew Sztein of the Hockey News. We're going to talk things all Ottawa Senators. We've been covering all types of teams. We had the Avs a couple weeks ago. We had the Blue Jackets, Oilers, Canucks, Toronto Maple Leafs. We've covered pretty much every team this season, but today, I should say, covering the Ottawa Senators. We've had Andrew on before, but as the season is creeping closer and closer, figure a good time to get you back on. So first and foremost, how are you, my friend? I know it's busy for everything outside of hockey.
Yeah. Very, very, very busy, but I'm also very excited for things to chill out a little bit. I love that crisp autumn weather that you get this time of year. You're not like just getting bombarded with like 35-degree weather. Like, no, give me that crisp autumn hockey right around the corner thing. And yeah, things are good.
Well, we'll get into the Senators in a second, but I just wanted to mention to our audience, if you're watching, post your questions in the chat. If you have any questions at all, Ottawa Senators related or not, happy to answer them here on the show. We got a bit of news. We had JT Miller announced as captain yesterday. We still got Connor McDavid looking to re-sign. Same thing with Kirill Kaprizov. There's a lot of things going on, even while there hasn't been a lot of activity in the NHL, so we can get to some of that too today. But I wanted to talk about the Senators. I'm looking here on The Athletic. They do their article every year where they talk about the additions and subtractions. So in for the Ottawa Senators, Lars Eller, Jordan Spence. Out is Adam Gaudette, Travis Hamonic, and Anton Forsberg. Your thoughts on the offseason for the Senators? Are you satisfied with what they've done?
Well, in my most recent Hockey News article, I said specifically that a boring offseason is just what the doctor ordered for this team. This has been a team that's just been inundated with instability, drama, just so many different things going wrong, from Uber Gates to find first round picks to also on the flip side, you go out and you pick up these big names, but do they fit? Are they going to stay? We had none of that. It was just basking in finally taking that step. To give a little perspective, I live in Mississauga, and I was walking my dog the other night in a Sens jersey, and this guy walks past me, and he's like, "Oh, Sens jersey, did you enjoy your first round exit?" And I simply said, "One of us is a lot happier with their team than the other one right now." And the guy's like, "Yeah." So, You know what? Like, this is where you want to be if you're Senators fan, is you just met expectations and now you're just like, it's very rare to like come out of that thing, right? The other one you get is like the Leafs side of things, where first round's not good enough, second round not good enough, right? So if you're a Sens fan, you're listening to this, just enjoy this moment, because at this very minute the team can't do any wrong, right? Wait till the season starts, then we'll see. In terms of the moves they made and stuff like that, I think it's the under the radar stuff is exactly what this team needed, especially in their cap situation that they've been in the past couple of years. I think picking up Jordan Spence out of LA is a huge upgrade on Hamonic, who was statistically one of the worst defenseman in the league last year. I think his wins above replacement was like 4% or something like that, and you needed an improvement there. A lot of ink's been spilled about how they need another top six forward, but sometimes you have to decide, do you want that superstar or do you want that depth, right? And I think they've really addressed depth, not just in the offseason, but with their trade deadline acquisitions last year. Dylan Cousins, Fabian Zetterlund. Lars Eller should be a good fit in a very defined fourth line role. We'll see. He's getting up there. He's in the back nine of his career for sure. Mostly what I think this team needed. They're young. They finally had a bit of a taste of success, and what they needed to feel was stability, right? And they have a good locker room culture too, so you don't want to mess with that too much.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the cap space. You got 3.5. A lot of teams wanted to spend this summer, but the theme this summer was keep what you have. There just wasn't a lot of movement this year because realistically, the only team that's selling in the offseason is Pittsburgh. Every other team is trying to get better. So with that, you're going to get a lot of, not a lot of movement and more so trades, but there just aren't a lot of trades that make sense. And if there is a trade to be made, it's usually a, win now trade, meaning, you want to get someone out that's going to help your team immediately. So I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of movement.
And generating $3.5 million of cap space when you were totally capped out the last couple of seasons is no mean feat as well, without any big deductions from your roster. So I think that's a smart move too, right? If everything goes according to plan, now you got a little room to add at the trade deadline too.
We mentioned some of the names leaving Ottawa. I think Adam Gaudette, I'm happy for him. He used to play for the Canucks. He had a great year for you guys in Ottawa, but I think San Jose did overpay him a little bit. And I think that, we'll see if he can keep up what he did last year. I think environment's a big thing too. I get guys trying to get paid and, I wouldn't blame them for going out, but I also think is he going to be that productive in San Jose when he had sort of the weapons he had in Ottawa to be able to perform that well? So I'm curious about that. And I'm shocked Travis Hamonic still playing, to be honest. Detroit picked him up. I had to do a double take when I read that, Andrew, honestly, because I'm like, how is he still playing? He's older. I remember Vancouver got rid of him for the simple fact of look, he's older and he's somewhat serviceable, but not for the price tag. And it worked out well for you guys, I think, for when you had him. But I'm pretty surprised Travis Hamonic got a job too. So
yeah, well, sticking with Hamonic, we'll get back to Gaudette in a second.
Yeah,
with Hamonic, I think his greatest value to the team was mentoring Jake Sanderson, right? Show him how to be a pro and things like that. So it wasn't completely without value, and they were paying the guy $1 million a year. Last year he was number 7, but you're always going to have a defense injury, so being the number 7 guy, he still played 50, 60 games. I can't remember exactly how many he played. And literally his last play, which was his 900th career game, right? So they put him in the lineup, even though they had the health at the time, to get him to 900. And his final play in a Sens uniform was giant pizza from behind the net, right up the slot, intercepted in the offensive zone and in the back of the net 3 seconds later. And that was kind of a microcosm of you're a good pro, but do you have more value maybe in a developmental coaching role or something? Steve Yzerman said, no, I want to acquire all the former Senators. Right. So they had picked up Tarasenko last year and then dumped him. They picked up Alex DeBrincat. They picked up Cam Talbot. So you want to catch up to this team that's kind of your main rival for one of those wild card spots, and you're going to take all their loose change that's shaken loose. So I don't understand what Detroit's doing on those. They picked up Jacob Bernard-Docker too. So a lot of guys that Ottawa was we're going to give them away for nothing. Detroit's yes, sir. Yes, please. May I have another?
Thank you for the leftovers. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then as far as Adam Gaudette goes, I thought he was a really, really great fit. But as a defensive-minded bottom 6 guy, I think the goal totals were a little inflated. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in November, if he wasn't leading the team in goals, he was top 3. Right. Yeah. And then he scored 5 or 6. December onward, kind of. I'm paraphrasing exactly what happened there, but he was on a major hot streak early in the year that really inflated that goal total to, I think, 19.
Yeah.
So good for him. For what Ottawa managed to sign Claude Giroux for, I'd rather have him.
That's true. Yeah.
But I'm always rooting for guys who took the hard way to the league, right? Spent the years in the minors, weren't a super high draft pick, and really, really paid their dues. And Adam Gaudette's second tour in Ottawa was everything they could have hoped for. And he was really, really good on the penalty kill, special teams, won a lot of face-offs and things like that. One thing that I think is important to note is they were really strong with left-handed centermen last year, but had barely anyone who is right-handed who could take a face-off. Now they have Dylan Cousins and Lars Eller. So now you have 2 right-handed centermen, 2 left-handed centermen. So no matter who they're up against, Travis Green can play the percentages there on handedness on the in the face-off dot.
Yeah, and this looks like a really well-balanced lineup. I don't know if you could have said that in years past. Do you also think that just having that stability in goal, I know that's been an issue for Ottawa the last couple of years, having obviously Ullmark, who played great, and then I don't know a ton about Merlanian. I hope I'm saying that right, but I think Merlanian. Sorry, that's why you're here to help me fix my mistakes here. But I think that was a big reason last year that they even made the playoffs. I think that Ottawa always had that potential of a playoff team. It's just they never got the goaltending. And then you add in a couple pieces. I like the David Perron pickup last year, just for that leadership perspective and everything else. And you're starting to see the pieces come together. So how much is that? Like you just said, even just the drama that's not surrounding this team. It just feels like there's stability both on and off the ice for the first time in a long time for Ottawa. Would you say that's accurate?
Yes, I would. And also, like, it's a chicken and the egg thing, right? Is your goaltending terrible because your defense sucks, or does your defense suck because your goaltending is terrible, right? And
Yeah.
I think it was a case of probably both, especially
Yeah.
in those
Totally.
like Matt Murray years or, Jonas Corposalo. Like, these guys like to just on the goalie graveyard heap there.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing this team has needed for years is stabilizing quality veterans at every position. So you mentioned David Perron, you mentioned Linus Ullmark, right? These are guys who have been there, done it, won some stuff, and can just like calm the waters beyond the coaching staff, right? Like Brady's a great leader, but he just turned 26, right? It feels like he's been in the league for 15 years, right? But so I think that's been a big value for Ullmark is, okay, you've got a goalie who can make some saves that he hasn't. He can steal a couple of games. He has that kind of aloof Swedish goal superstar attitude that you've seen with so like the Alfredsons and Naslins and Zetterbergs and Sedins of the world, right? Like that's a calming influence in a dressing room. So going back to Marilainen though, I think he took that backup role and just ran with it. They had to keep Forsberg around as insurance for the playoffs. He was a good soldier, it's average, right? If you average it out, he was average, right? About a 900 save percentage in his Ottawa career, about a 500 record on a not so great team. But Marilainen, when Ullmark went down for a month, I think he played 12 games, 8-3-1 with 3 shutouts, and one of those that overtime loss was a shutout till the shootout against the Washington Capitals during Ovechkin's goal chase, right? So he had like 925 save percentage or something like that. Like just one of those kids who just comes in out of nowhere, looks unflappable, like Silov's in the playoffs for Vancouver a couple of years ago, where it's just you're in over your head, but you almost don't even know it. And
it's blind confidence in some ways. That's how I best described it. I don't think he knew the magnitude of the situation he was in. He was just like, we'll go for it. And it worked out well. And he had a lot of success. So.
Yeah, so I mean, here in the backup spot, and then behind him, you still got Mad Sogard, who had an injury-plagued season, didn't play well when he was up in the show, but is still like 22, 23. Like, how many times have we seen goalies like break out at like 27, right? So the thing with Sogard and both Marilainens, they're both on one-ways, so who knows with waivers being the way they are, that if Sogard stays in the system. But for a team that has such a reputation as a goalie graveyard, Ottawa's sure given a lot of number one goalies to other teams in the last 15, 20 years, whether it's Ben Bishop, Joey Decord, Philip Gustafson, these guys that couldn't do it in Ottawa. And sorry,
didn't you guys had Matt Murray too for a bit? Didn't you sign him to a big contract? Is it Matt Murray? Who's the other? Yeah, it's Matt. Yeah, it was Matt Murray. Yeah, it was
Matt Murray.
I get him and Martin Jones mixed up for some reason. I don't know why. They both start with them.
Yeah, he was already kind of not great in Pittsburgh. Ottawa took the flyer, signed him to a huge contract. Then they traded him to the Leafs with some retention. Jonas Corposalo, I don't think is going to emerge as a number one in Boston, but you know what I mean.
yeah, exactly. I was going to ask you too. By the way, my mouse died, so I'm going to have to just hop off here for a second, switch it. But I'll get you to talk in the meantime. Sure. One thing, I don't know if it's still a thing. I know he's got a couple of years left on his contract, but we've heard a lot about in Vancouver, Quinn Hughes potentially leaving. He's got 2 years left in his deal. I know there was some chatter maybe last year, and especially around the Four Nations, about Brady Tkachuk and what his future is in Ottawa. I would say that, just as an outside looking in, I mean, winning solves everything. This is a team that had a lot of encouraging things last year in the playoffs and with what they were able to do last year. As that talk kind of died down a bit, or do you think that's still a thing with the fact that, we saw his brother leave Calgary? There's this thought that a lot of these American players want to go play in U.S. markets. What's your thought on the Brady Tkachuk thing? And I'll come back and get your answer in a sec, but keep going.
Sure. So one thing that was in my most recent article was, what are some of the biggest news for the Sens in this offseason? And with that case, one of them, such a boring, quiet offseason, that one of the biggest ones was that Keith Tkachuk himself came out and said, just because this happened with Matthew Tkachuk doesn't mean this is going to happen with Brady. Brady's really ingrained himself in the community. They treat him well. He loves his teammates. So when you've got, big Walt coming out and literally like pouring water on that. That's a far cry from, say, Brady Tkachuk's early years when they were about to lose Mark Stone, and Keith Tkachuk came out and said, "You got to get this Mark Stone guy signed," and I wasn't thrilled about my son getting drafted with Ottawa. And now the tone's completely changed. And I think something that was really valuable in these playoffs, beyond the experience of actually playing in them, was that for the first time that I can remember is that Sens fans took their building back in the playoffs. The Leaf fans were maybe 5-10% of the building at most in the playoffs, which if you follow Sens Twitter at all is never the case, right? Like a good night is 60-40 in favor of the Sens. A bad night is 75% Leaf fans just take over the whole building. And you could see it in Brady's face, like how much it meant that like the fans really like came out and really supported and took their building back. That meant something to Brady and the rest of the players there. Now, Brady's got 3 years left on his contract, including this season. And one thing we've learned following hockey all these years is things can change in 5 minutes, let alone 3 seasons. Exactly, yeah. So the one thing that is, I think, beneficial and beyond like Keith Tkachuk's comments and how Brady conducts himself is most of his best buds on the team are signed for longer than that, right? So if you want to keep playing with these guys that you came up with and stuff like that, they're stuck here whether you're there or not. And I think the whole like brothers playing together thing over the years has just gotten way overblown. Like people love to see the Szteins play their whole career together, but there's loads of brothers who never had a chance to play together, and nobody's like, oh, is that like, you know, it's just there's 32 teams, right? It's tough to unite brothers. St. Louis united the Joseph brothers last season, and now they're apart again, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So it comes from a sentimentality angle that people want to see. Now, with all that said, who knows what the future holds? But I have no real concerns about Brady leaving right now. That's outside noise, and this organization has made a really good job of insulating. And also, like when these rumors pop up, like Andlauer and Staios will talk to the player with the rumors that are affecting and just saying, here's our plan for you. Drake Batherson was on the Coming in Hot podcast last week, I think. And they asked him directly, like, he didn't have a great playoffs. He had like 2 points in 6 games or something like that. And Sens Twitter is like, no, trade Batherson. He's you know? And so the team literally said, hey, these are the rumors around you. We want you to know they aren't true. And we're looking forward to welcoming you back next year, right? And that's the difference between this organization under Andlauer and Melnick, right? Is they not only take the health of their players seriously, but also like the mental health. Like they make them feel welcome, important, right? And that's how you're attracting guys like David Perron. That's how you're signing a Zetterlund versus him walking away. All right. That's how you're getting a Jordan Spence excited to play there, or a Jensen to play there, right? Like before it was like, oh God, I just got traded to the NHL equivalent of Siberia and I just counting down the games till I can get out of here. Right. And so that's a big thing. I have no concerns about Brady leaving. And then when, you know, we'll talk it to death in the last year of his contract, like we do with McDavid or any other big superstar.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it gets to the point where the Sens have success. He wants to stay. You're seeing those building blocks. I think the cool thing with Ottawa is like the foundation's there for this thing to be successful, right? Going forward, like I mentioned, the signings, even the ownership. It just seems like this is a much different team than even a couple of years ago. We got John in the chat here. He is very knowledgeable when it comes to hockey. Always love having John in here. He says, Carter Yemenchuk looks like a star in the making. Loved watching him on the Hitmen. Your thoughts on his progression? I know the Athletic had their prospects article out a little while ago. He's ranked fairly high. Just your thoughts on his progression in the Sens system.
So I think really, really good. In his draft year, he scored 30 goals in the W. And then last year, his offensive numbers went way down, which I think is actually a positive development. Any player who's his size, his skill set could rip up the junior leagues the wrong way, right? And the team actually was like, no, we know what you can do offensively. You have those tools. You've developed them well. Now we want you to be a defensive-minded consciousness. And not only that, the Hitman made the playoffs this year. When he scored 30 goals, they were near the bottom of the standings. So I like what I'm seeing there. Now, some pundits will say that, it's a big red flag that the offensive numbers went down and he's been surpassed by Dickinson and Parekh and Buyam and these guys that he was drafted around. But they said the same thing about Jake Sanderson. So we'll see, right? But I think what the team has done really well with Yakimchuk in particular is just communicate, these are our expectations for you. Take this year in junior and develop those skills so that you're ready to go. And if he spends the season or half the season in the AHL, I mean, even Erik Karlsson spent half a year in it was Binghamton at the time. So there's nothing wrong with that. Learning to play with men. We've seen that you can dominate boys. And I think getting left off the Team Canada, even the training camp roster, which he wasn't the only big name play, like Parekh wasn't on that roster either. I was at that game in person where they lost. So Dave Cameron, you made some choices there. So yeah, I think he's easily their top prospect. One of the bigger problems with the Sens right now is their prospect cupboard is still fairly bare, which really affects their ability to add at the trade deadline. If they're like going for a top 6 forward or something, they don't have a lot of prospect capital to work with, which makes Yakimchuk all the more important that he makes it.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of teams. We got some more questions here. John, again, on the ball with this stuff. Logan Hensler, for how young he was impressed last season in Wisconsin. So John watching everything these days. So your thoughts on him?
You're on the prospects, maybe even more than I am. From what I've heard about him, he's high character player. He won gold at the American World Juniors. He's already been nicknamed the Sensler by Sens Twitter, which is a nice little nickname for him. And what I find fascinating is, for the last couple of times, so a couple of years back, Ottawa had the North Dakota Sens, right? So they had Shane Pinto there, they had Jake Sanderson there, they had Jacob Bernard Docker there, and so they had a kind of a centralized mini like prospect development camp in North Dakota. And now it's moved over to Wisconsin. They have Hensler there, they have Blake Montgomery there, who just won a Memorial Cup with the London Knights, projects out to be a bottom 6 forward, maybe an AHL, NHL tweener. But if you start developing these chemistry between teammates in their teen years in these kind of university or junior environments, right, that can only grow and grow as you get older and you make it more to the show. So I think that's a positive. There's another prospect in Wisconsin whose name escapes me right now, but the Sens have a focus on the Wisconsin Badgers, the former pre-pro home of Sens All-Star Danny Heatley.
Right. Also, he says he's a big fan of Halliday, a bit of a late bloomer, but could be a 3rd or 4th line center. So again, John on the ball with his Sens. You know what's so great is that we'll do shows with different teams, and John knows like the prospects and everything. This guy's awesome.
I'm impressed, man. Like, I got to tell you, like, you know me, I write for the Sens for the Hockey News and blah blah blah. When it's a prospect, until they put on the jersey, I don't know.
I keep a little bit of tabs. Actually, Dave Hall, who we have on here a lot on the show, he covers the Abbotsford Canucks. So any of my prospect stuff, I just read all Dave's articles and pretend that I know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's basically how you keep track of it. But Halliday, what are you thinking?
Pardon me. He led the Binghamton Senators in scoring in the playoffs. I believe 9 points in 7 games. So he's coming along real nice. From the limited viewing that I've seen of him, he looks like he could be in the mold of a Antoine Vermette, Mike Fisher, Pajot type, right? High energy, bottom 6, maybe middle 6, but probably bottom 6. Just that energy guy who just plays the right game, the game the right way, 200 feet, hard to knock the puck off on the boards, and might get you some clutch points in important scenarios, which he's already proven he can do at the AHL level.
There we go. Good summary. Is the team better off with Cousins or Norris? I know small sample size, but
I would say yes, simply because A, he's paid less, and B, he's healthier, and the best ability is available.
The latter is what I was kind of thinking of a lot. I know Norris, he was great, but just not consistently healthy. So
yeah, and both of them had like kind of their breakout seasons, like 2-3 seasons ago. Cousins had 68 points, Norris had 35 goals, and both of them have struggled to get to that level since then. Ever since Norris's injury issues, I did notice a bit more of a tentative style of play. He was a little more kamikaze before the shoulder injuries. And you gotta, like, he was adored in this market, by the way. One of the crown jewels of the Erik Karlsson trade that also brought in Stützle and a bunch of other guys. DeMello is still worshipped in Ottawa, of all things. They always say, like, bring back DeMello. It's like he played like a season and a half in Ottawa, but okay. Anyway, yeah, that was. I think just having the consistent, kind of like set in stone second line center, although Shane Pinto might have something to say about that. And also he had World Junior experience with Drake Batherson. And we'll see. He's had some issues with consistency in the past, even in his limited Ottawa time, but he was like brushing up against that point per game pace in Ottawa. So he replaced Norris's production at the very least, and he seems like a likable kid. And so I know he spent a ton of the summer with, I believe it was Sam Gagner, who's the new player development coach for the Sens.
Is he really? Sam Gagner?
Yeah. Sam Gagner,
really?
recently retired.
No. I know. Obviously, played for like so many different teams. But what's the
10-time former Oiler? How many times did he go back to the Oilers throughout his career?
Well, no. I was gonna. Yeah, you're right. Like 5 times. But he's an Ontario guy. That's probably. I was trying to think of the connection. It's just weird that, like, for example, like Brent Seabrook, I saw got hired by the Flames as a development guy, and I'm like, where's the connection to Calgary? But then I remembered, I think his wife's from there, and I think there's some connection from Junior. I think he played for Lethbridge, so I don't know. Maybe that was it. But that's good though. I mean, very experienced guy, right?
And it's always tough to come to a new team, new system. You're going from a team with no expectations to a team with expectations, and with an off season with the player development coach, and just knowing what the expectations and the systems are. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cousins get back to at least that 60-point mark. And I think 60 points would be a successful season for him. Yeah,
I agree. And then we'll just jump here to John's comment here. Noah's a Jets fan. You can't have DeMello back. So there we go. That makes sense. And then we got Sherry in the chat saying, let's go Sens. So yeah, any Sens questions, hit them our way. I did want to go, I did want to get to some stuff around the league, but before we get into that, what are sort of the expectations this season? Is it to get further in the playoffs? Is it just, we're still in that phase where you're waiting? Because I mean, I think with the team and where they are sort of youth wise, I think you are expecting a number of these guys to step up and be even more important to the team. What are sort of the projections and expectations for this year from your perspective?
I expect more out of Tkachuk and Stützle, which is a high bar, but Tkachuk only had 55 points last year, and he got hurt at the Four Nations tournament. Yeah. And then was playing hurt and got a different injury in a game against Pittsburgh. So he was double hurt and still was over a point per game in the playoffs. I expect him, he's had 80-point seasons. He can get back there, especially with that motivation. You just saw your brother win a second cup in a row. You got your taste of the playoffs. He's going to be motivated. And I think 55 points he could easily do better than that, provided he's in the lineup. Stützle has had a bit of an issue in the last 2 years. He scored 39 3 seasons ago and has not broken 25 since. And a lot of that is, I think he had a significant wrist injury And so he focused more on being an insane playmaker and possession driver, which he was excellent at. But you put up a 90-point, 39-goal season, and then you kind of retract back to 70 points. I think point per game, I think he had 79 points last year. Although he did outscore Austin Matthews 2 out of the last 3 seasons. So that's something true. Not in goals, but in points. 2 out of the last 3 seasons, Stützle had more points than Matthews. So I would expect him to start shooting a little more this year, and getting back to that mid 80s to possibly the Century Club there. In terms of other ones, Shane Pinto looks absolutely poised to break out. Ridley Gregg.
As long as he's not betting.
Well, I'm betting on it. But yeah, no, he looks like he's ready to be in that 50-point range, super valuable 2-way forward. Ridley Gregg is fast becoming one of the most notorious pests in the league, and he can put up some points as well. Amadio, I think, is a really nice fit as kind of that Swiss Army knife that you can kind of throw in on any line. I mean, look, like the depth of this team is now Giroux is kind of penciled in as a third liner,
which is a good thing. I mean, think of what he's accomplished in his career. He's an Ottawa guy as well. Like that is what, like, if you look at teams that win the cup, and I'm not saying Ottawa's going to win the cup this year, but they do have like a really notable veteran, like a Corey Perry, who's done it all and is now sort of this, support guy. It's good to see that on a team like Ottawa that, isn't, I wouldn't say in cup contention, but still it's good to have on the roster.
And then the big wild card is Zetterlund, right? They picked him up, a really savvy deal by Sztein there, right? Where you traded, a fourth line prospect in Zaka Stapchuk and I think a second round pick or something for a guy who's put up 20 goals in the league multiple times. Now in Ottawa, I thought he played very, very well. And it was one of those situations where like, oh man, like if you were right there in the slot and you missed the net by 2 inches, or the goalie made a huge save, or there was a lot of those like, oh, just an inch there, and the stats would probably be a lot more flattering. If he's going to get a chance with Brady and Tim on the top line, he is also a strong breakout candidate. And I love like the build of this guy. Like, I don't know if you saw the YouTube video of him deadlifting like 600 pounds. He's like 5'9", but he's like 220. Like, I think it was Spit and Chicklets that called him a fire hydrant or a cigarette machine, like just short and just like, you can't move him. Right. So yeah, that's where I kind of see the forwards in terms of potential. On the defensive side of things, I think Jake Sanderson is poised to be hitting that Quinn Hughes level of like.
I got another level. Yeah,
he has one more gear to go, but man, he was stellar in the playoffs in particular. And he's a lock for Team USA, and he's going to start getting some more recognition. He'd probably already be getting Norris votes if he was playing in New York or Toronto or any of these like kind of huge markets with a lot more coverage. Other than that, I foresee Jordan Spence supplanting at least Nick Jensen, who is probably not going to start the year. He had, I think, a hip resurfacing surgery or something. He was playing hurt the second half of the year. And you want that long-term fit with one of Shabbat or Sanderson. And Sanderson and Zub have been a good pair, so you probably want that. And then Nick Mpalo, who's not even listed there, played for Finland at the Four Nations and was quite good in the playoffs with Tyler Clevin. So even on the defensive side and on the right side, which everyone's always, we need one more right shot D. And I think Ottawa is one of the few teams in the league who can be like, maybe we don't need another right shot D. I think we might be good. And then the goaltending is the goaltending, right? Goaltending is voodoo, right? Like, but
now especially, like, you know what? I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like, it's just not like it used to be. Like, remember in the 90s, like if you had a goaltender, you were like guaranteed the playoffs. Everything was good. Like, you look at the Rangers, like they got one of the best goalies in the league. They didn't make the playoffs last year. It's just you need in some way, and then you can have like, and I hate to crap on the guy, but like you can be Vegas and have Aiden Hill and still win a Stanley Cup. And I don't know what Aiden Hill is. I still don't. I still have questions about. No, and I say this to someone like he's from here, right? He's from British Columbia. Like I wish him well, but I really don't know what you're getting. Like Like, he doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to steal games for you, but it does. But for certain teams, that doesn't matter. They can still go out there and get it done and get as far as they can. So it's very,
that speaks to the strength, I think, of like a good defensive system as well.
Big time.
Is you can win a cup with an Aiden Hill if you have a stacked back end who plays the game the right way. Right. Mm-hmm. But if your team is a bit of a systemic and cultural disaster like the Rangers are, doesn't matter that you have Shesterkin back there. Right. Yeah. Like, you know, like you're running Jacob Trouba out of town with pitchforks and torches, and, you know, like the guy's still a serviceable defenseman ish. I mean, some people might disagree with me on that. But yeah, I think good goaltending these days is really just endemic of good systems and good team culture, and, you know, obviously some skill. But yeah. The Brodeur, Belfour, Waugh, Curtis Joseph guys playing 65 games a year is those days are done. Like, Ottawa was like leading the league in shutouts when Patrick Lalime was their number one goalie. I mean, like, you know, like even he was a quality number one. I'll stand by that.
Yeah, he was, except playoff time. But anyways,
best career playoff goals against average until I think it was Tim Thomas surpassed him. Look it up. He's still top 5 all-time playoff goals against average.
I know you're right. Look, Luongo didn't have good. Luongo had good playoff stats, but then I can clearly remember games where like he definitely was part of the issue. They didn't win certain games, but that's a topic for another day.
Another day.
I actually haven't seen these third jerseys. I just saw them as John asked this question. I like these. I like the gold on here. I kind of wish the strap, the top would be all the way on the shoulders. But what are your thoughts on these jerseys?
I am center positive on them. I love what they've done with the details on the actual Centurion logo, where they actually have like the I don't even know what you want to call it. Let's just call it the broom. Like there's a lot more detail in the bristles. I love when Ottawa incorporates gold into their color scheme. I think it's an important accent for them. I found the shade of red a little strange compared to like the red they normally the shade of red they normally have. Mm-hmm. I still need to see what the font and numbers they go through on the back. And I have a feeling these will be better received as player wear than fan wear. And when it comes to jerseys, there's certain jerseys where I'm like, this one works great as fan wear, but I don't love it on the ice. And then there's the other side. I think this one's going to be looking good on the ice. I don't know if like Chris Phillips with the slacks and stuff like that. That looks a little awkward. I'm not a fan of the shoulders. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, I like the full shoulder one. Like when it goes all the way over. If you're going to do it that way, I don't like this because it looks like it's half. It doesn't cover the full shoulder. Unless it's the way he's holding it. But maybe it is. Maybe it is actually. I'm looking at it here. It looks a little bit different. But
I give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. I actually like a little bit more, but you're right. We got to see how it looks on the actual jerseys there. And
one thing I do like about it is they have an Ottawa logo on the back with the Peace Tower ingrained in the A, and it's a really cool instead of where the Fanatics logo normally would be.
Which is always good to not have that. Staios will make a big move for toxic forward with $4.5 million left in salary cap from last year. Again, it just depends on. This is one thing I think everyone should be keeping an eye on. You got to take a look at which teams are struggling out of the gate to start the season. Like I'm looking at Nashville. Like they didn't do anything this offseason. I don't see them being much of a better team than they were last year. And it's going to get to the point, I think, with that fan base where they're like, okay, we got to rebuild here because this is not like we can't keep running this back and expecting different results. Like there's going to be teams like that I think aren't sellers, but I think will be forced to be sellers. And that's where you could see some assets getting moved around. That's my projection anyways. So.
Especially with retention, right? Now, exactly. One thing that doesn't help Ottawa is they don't have their first round pick this year as of now from that Dadonov thing. If I were to predict, I think they're going to just say, here, have the last pick in the first round and no, you can't trade it. Because that's what they did with New Jersey, right? Mm-hmm. And I think Andlauer's been a pretty model owner. And he paid $1 billion for this franchise. He's building the rink, and the NHL should reward ownership that runs a team that way, or at least, like lessen the punishment a bit. Like you're punishing Ottawa because the Vegas couldn't be bothered to read his no trade clause the season after they acquired him. Like,
so dumb, by the way, so dumb. The thing that drives me nuts, there's such a double standard with how the league goes about things. Like, I still maintain this, and maybe it's because, I don't know, I don't like Chicago, but like, how did they get Bedard after all the things that happened in the league with the whole situation with Quenneville and all that? Like, that's far worse than like, what was it? Who's the guy from the Coyotes, the analytics guy that they used to have that like, kind of was like, working with players when he shouldn't have been. Like, they got punished for years with that. Ottawa with the stupid trade thing, they didn't read the fine print. Like, that is work. They're getting punished, but Chicago isn't. How does that make sense? I don't know.
I mean, from what I understand is Dorion said he didn't submit his no trade clause on time. And it turns out he had. But also, like, Vegas went and won a cup. Like, how much did they really get affected by that? They were still able to trade Dadonov. And also this was previous regime. And that's an important thing. John has another comment in the threads that I want to show something related to that. Just a second.
Are we talking the Vermette thing or the other one?
The Phillips one.
Oh, Chris Phillips is a legend. Oh yeah, of course. I know you got some Chris Phillips gear. Let's see this. Oh, there we go. Nice.
There it is.
Awesome.
Still their best third jersey. I would have liked it to go back to this one.
Yeah, maybe someday. They should do like a fan poll and see what happens there. Okay, before we go, I wanted to get some stuff going on around the league. One thing I did want to get to, because this came out the other day, this Mitch Love thing going on in Washington. Are you following this? Where, he was a candidate for, it looked like, the Pittsburgh job and elsewhere, and now some stuff's come out that apparently there was something, I don't know if it was sexual assault or something along those lines, that like there was something that prevented him from getting the head coaching opportunity. And apparently wasn't. I mean, also, the guy's last name, like, could this be any more like, could this be any worse for him? But I just I heard a lot of good things about him from a coaching perspective. I immediately thought when I heard this news, because I was reading some stuff about, I guess Kirby Doc was coached by him in junior and they didn't have a good relationship or something. I thought it might have been one of those things, like the guy from Calgary who got fired a couple of years ago for like treating players badly. But I don't know. The problem with this stuff, unfortunately, is when you bring out situation, like, because Washington tweeted this out, they said, I believe he's under suspension or something, and there's no context. In this day and age, the conspiracy theories start coming out. So
the court of public opinion requires no evidence, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I mean, it's tough to say, but also I firmly believe that working in the NHL is a privilege, and whether or not you broke the law, like the NHL across the board has morality clauses in their contracts, right? So you don't need to have broken the law to be human garbage who the league won't want to have to work with you. Nobody's required by law to employ you, all right? Especially if your conduct is unbecoming of what any organization, right? Walmart, McDonald's, the NHL, doesn't matter, right? Like, they don't owe you a job. Right? You maintain, or you get a job, you maintain a job by having strong moral fiber and being good at your job. And that's where I'll leave it on that topic, because that is a minefield and a half.
No, absolutely. Okay, switching hard turn here. What do you make of this Connor McDavid thing that's going on right now? I see all this stuff coming out that, like, shorter term deal, obviously the cap's going up. What's your gut feeling? Because, I've had people on, we had Troy on last week, who's been on the show a lot. He thinks McDavid's leaving. Where do you sit on this? What's your gut feeling?
I think he's going to stay. It's
shorter term deal,
the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And how many players in league history have, like, forced their way out of town from a team just to end up in a terrible situation? Erik Karlsson, if we're sticking with the Sens, right? Like, he had one good run with San Jose, and he has been in the wilderness ever since, right? They had that one Final Four run. I don't think Erik Karlsson's been in the playoffs in 7 years, right? And he forced his way out. Like, oh, no, I need to be in a better situation. And I think the McDavid camp is playing this right. They're not doing, like, kind of the Mitch Marner thing where he has, like, his handlers, like, attacking different people online. And, like, he's asking about, like, oh, what's it like in Vegas at the Four Nations? And I think McDavid's just playing it close to the vest. This is how negotiations go. We go through this they're doing it with Crosby now. Crosby's not leaving Pittsburgh. Come on. Like, if anything else, Crosby's going to mentor whoever they draft in the top 5 this year and do the Mario thing. Like, no, I don't think he's going anywhere, but stranger things have happened, and I would not be surprised that if he went somewhere else and the entire thing, both in Edmonton and wherever he went, imploded around it. Because that you're bringing a, I don't want to use like a black hole, right? But like something with a huge gravitational pull, right? Into, you never know quite how that's going to work out. Like, remember when Timo Solani and Paul Carrillo went into Colorado? That team didn't go anywhere, and that was like what, a year after they won the cup. Like, and not that McDavid has a big ego per se. If anything, he has, like, he's a little too mousy for how big his reputation is, I think. Like, just kind of the very quiet type in that kind of regard. And oh man, what a black hole of charisma, at least. That guy has no charisma at all. But you fundamentally earth-shakingly change the foundations of a team like that. It can be difficult. I think he's going to, like, I mean, Edmonton's been to 2 finals in a row. Like, can anybody else guarantee you a better result than that? Not really.
Well, no, but I will say, like, I am surprised Edmonton didn't address the goaltending, and not that that was the reason they lost, but you'd think that is, like, they changed the goaltending coach, I believe, but you're still running it back with Skinner and Pickard. You're not going to change at least one of those. That to me seemed odd, and I also heard that they weren't even in on John Gibson. Like, that to me is a bit weird. Like, at least try something different. That to me is where I could see McDavid being like, come on, guys. Like, listen, Skinner won the Dallas series. I will fully admit that. I think in the finals, he did let the team down a little bit. I just think you need more than Pickard and Skinner. You can't just keep running the same thing back over and over again. And to me, it's priority. It's like, does he want to go to that big American market? Does he want to do what Gretzky did and go to New York or go to LA or one of these places? Like, I think we have to figure out what are his priorities, because, I've heard people be like, well, you don't want to go to, this market because, nobody cares, or vice versa. You don't want to go to a Canadian market. There's too much pressure. But if you're in a Canadian market and you win, you are a royalty beyond anything else you could be in an American market. Like, people don't understand that. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out.
One thing I think I can say with absolute certainty is he's not going to the Leafs. Leafs Twitter, you need to get that one out of your head. Well, you're so eager. You just lost Marner, and now you're eager to reignite a core 4 again, where more than half your cap space is devoted to 4 or 5 players, and I don't see it. Like, why would he? But
I will say, maybe, like, he's from there, right? Like, maybe that is important to him. Like Tavares, when he left New York.
Marner's from Toronto too.
No. Well, yeah, but Marner. Okay, but the Marner thing, which, I mean, we can get into that now too. I think with Marner, it got to a point where they weren't winning. I know Marner's going to play better in Vegas. Like, I don't think there's a question about that. I just think it's better for both teams. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if the Leafs even kind of perform a bit better without Marner. Yes, that's a big hole to fill as far as the scoring, but just maybe you can use that cap space better with other things. Like, I think it's one of those weird situations where I think it will work out. Unlike, say, like, Casey Middlestat for Bowen Byram, which I don't think never really worked out for either team. I know Byram, because now Byram wants out, right? Like, that's the whole thing.
Well, he signed, but only 2 years.
He did sign, but I think all indications he's going to leave after that. But anyways, we can discuss that another day, but we'll see what happens there. Okay, I've been asking everyone that's come on here recently, just their not necessarily projections, but if you're looking at the Eastern Conference right now, who's a team that you could see slipping? So my picks this year, as far as maybe teams falling out of the playoffs, I could see Washington having some regression. I think if you look at the finer stats as far as how they were performing last year, the PDO was a little high on that. I could see them having a bit of a decline. And then I wonder about Montreal too. Like, they got in, they were a great story. They had obviously the good run. They're going to have a full season with Demidov. I know people's in love with Montreal. You never hear a bad thing about them in the media, but I also look at this team and go, like, they don't really have a superstar. They don't have, maybe you could put Suzuki in that category, but
they don't have a number 2 center.
And like a lot of teams, right? So that's another team I could see maybe slipping in. And then who gets in? I think Columbus is going to make it this year. They were so close. I think they got the goaltending figured out. I think Merzlikins will not be the starter. I think, as we had Troy on last week, I think Greaves will be the guy to take the reins, and I think they've got enough there to potentially get in. But who are some teams in the East?
Never underestimate the do it for Johnny vibes that are still absolutely
100%.
There for that team. Specifically as related to the Sens, I think the Panthers are going to make a drop in the standings. They're not going to fall all the way out of the playoffs. But
you've been to for a couple months too.
You've been to 3 Cup finals in a row. Kachuk's out till January. I could see Panthers coming in as a wild card and then catching fire at the right time, and their dynasty continues. All right, but I do think that opens up a top 3 spot for Ottawa. I think Ottawa and the Leafs are quite comparable. I think Ottawa's got the depth. The Leafs still still have probably the superior top end talent. But I'm not sure I've ever seen, at least in a Canadian market, the toxicity between the fan base and the team and the ownership that I'm seeing with the Leafs right now. Especially since they jacked up their price. Like, it's $1,000 for a regular season game day ticket, space value now, like for a pair of tickets. And this is a fan base that booed their team off the ice. I think at least 3 times during the playoffs last year. So you got that pressure cooker thing going on. You're a little less talented than last year. And I could see them bringing, coming down to earth a little bit more. Again, I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. I think they're far too talented for that. The Lightning, I've got to get old one of these years, right?
They showed signs of it last year. And actually, if you look at Vasilevsky's numbers in the playoffs, they weren't that good last year, you know? So I do wonder, like, they've got to address that at some point. Like, you know, because Vasilevsky's not going to play forever. And then you've got, you know, you're paying like Yanni Gord and some of these other guys, like, you know, kind of big money to play these roles. But I think that type of stuff, and them training all those picks for Tanner Jeannot a couple of years ago, like, that stuff's going to catch up with them eventually, I think. So I'm with you there too.
I have no idea what the Red Wings are doing. I don't see them in the playoffs, but Buffalo's got to make the playoffs one of these years, right? Like I could see Montreal, or, you know, probably not the Leafs, but like I could see one of these teams just imploding. Like the Lightning could implode like Nashville did. Like, it's not outside the realm of possibility. And I mean, the Sabres have got like a lot of good young talent. Devin Levy should still be a good goalie. Pekka Luukkonen.
They got Gorgia, by the way. Did you see that? I think he's going to play in the AHL, but like, hey, why not throw a flyer at that?
Yeah, exactly. So like that would be my hottest of hot takes, is that the Sabres finally make it this year. Okay. But I do think the door is open for Ottawa to be top 3. Well,
I want to remind people last year, if you watch that Leafs series, they were neck and neck. Like, there was a point in that playoffs last year where I thought Ottawa was going to take it. And you know what I think it came down
game
to?
6.
Was, yes, exactly. But no, I think the experience for the Leafs is ultimately what got them the win in that series. But at some point, Ottawa, I think, will close the gap there. I do firmly believe that.
You could absolutely just make it a case for luck, right? 3 of those games went to overtime, right? Like, those are coin flips. Allmark could have been better, especially
maybe
early
getting
in the series.
In there and getting that experience. Maybe next year he will be better, right? Sometimes it's you got to get the reps in, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's go over to the West. I know that's not, I don't pay as attention to it there. I maintain this. I think the Kings are out of the playoffs. I loved what Ken Holland did from a Canucks fan perspective, because they wasted all that cap space on, Cody Ceci, who obviously you remember from Ottawa days, and then Dumoulin from New Jersey. I think that was a huge waste of cap space. Yeah.
They traded Jordan Spence to Ottawa for 2 mid-round picks, and he was, I think, their statistically best defenseman.
To New York. The guy they traded, they lost in New York as well. That guy, Gavrikov, or what was his name? The guy that signed the big contract. Like, you could have used that money for him, and that would have been better. I think there's too many question marks with LA.
Kopitar is I mean, he's still good, right? But it's like, it's the Giroux thing, right? Do you want that guy leading your team, or do you want him on your third line at this stage of his career, right? And but I mean, the Kings always find a way to make it and then get smoked by Edmonton in the first round. So, you know, why mess with a good thing?
I think the Jets will still make the playoffs, but I do wonder, not really replacing Ehlers, will we see a bit of regression there? And they got to address playing Hellebuck so much, because that keeps biting him in the ass in the playoffs. I wonder if there's going to be some regression there. And as far as teams making it in, I could see Utah. I really like what they did last year, and they were injured most of the year. I think a healthy Utah team, they seem to have a lot of momentum. Definitely seeing some leaps and bounds for that. And St. Louis is another team I could see regressing, just because they went on that crazy run last year. I don't know if they replicate that. It kind of reminds me of what happened with Nashville the year before. They go on a crazy run. They bring in all these extra pieces like Stamkos and Marchessault, and they end up being worse.
Didn't seem sustainable as I was watching it.
One last thing I'll mention about the West. I've been mentioning this to everyone. As much as the Golden Knights are going to be better with Marner, I do look at that defense and I get a little bit worried with Pietrangelo being out. He logged a lot of minutes for them. He's not going to be playing this year. You're still going to have Hanifin and Theodore and all these guys. Theodore, is he 100% after coming off the Four Nations? I think that's a big question mark. And they still haven't addressed the goaltending. Like, you're going with Hill and Schmid as your goaltenders. I got a little bit of a worry there too. So I think Vegas will be good, but there's still some questions on the defensive end of things, I think.
Yeah, but Vegas is also always like, we'll trade every prospect, every pick we
Yeah,
have,
like
and
they'll
bring in the
probably get
biggest
like
name.
Rasmus Anderson from Calgary or someone. Like they'll make, like they could get Carlson. I don't know. They're just a team that can they
Rasmus
take guys
Dahlin,
place.
come on down to
Yeah,
Vegas.
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
Because
you
cap
never know.
space apparently doesn't apply to the Knights. As far as the Pacific goes, I really like the chances of all three Western Canadian teams making it. Dustin Wolf on his own is probably, we're talking about sure thing goaltending of eras past. He's probably as sure thing as there is in the league in terms of in the
I agree.
crease.
Young, good goaltender.
And
Yep.
Demko's also due for like a healthy, like
So
strong
this is,
season
I
as
brought
well.
this up on the show before. I want to get your perspective on this. People hated the Demko Lankinen tandem, and there's still a chance they could trade Lankinen. He's on a good salary. He's he's good. He's good enough to be serviceable. He basically made it so the Canucks were even like a playoff team, like somewhat of a playoff team, close to the playoffs, because he played so well. But I really think you've got this tandem now of Demko and Lankinen. That might be one of the best in the league. If Demko's healthy, you're getting a potential Vezina caliber goaltender. And then you don't have to worry about overplaying him because you have a capable backup now. Think of all the backup goalies that didn't work out when Demko was there. Yaroslav Halak, Braden Holtby. The list goes on. They had who's the guy that went to Carolina? They just had, they've had so many guys that just, Spencer Martin is the guy I'm thinking of. They just haven't had like a good backup, and they had Casey DeSmith a few years back as well. He ended up going to Dallas, but I think that tandem plus the fact that they've got really good defense now, I think Canucks will probably make the playoffs, and they hopefully no drama this year, but that's easier said than done with the team.
Yeah, and also like as somebody who just escaped horrible ownership, I hope you guys get there too. Because
well, I heard now the latest thing is if the Canucks don't perform well to start out the year, that management might be gone. Like this experiment with Alvin and Rutherford may be over before after the 5-year mark or whatever it is. So I don't know. And then you got Adam Foote as a first-year head coach. Like there's a lot of question marks, but it really hinges on Pettersson. If Pettersson doesn't come back to form, they're not a playoff team. There's no question about it.
And like they got Sheetal for Miller, right?
Well, really, okay. So yes, that was part of the trade.
But cap space. You always have to factor in cap space.
No, it was the cap space. But really, the thing that people miss in that trade is they got Marcus Pettersson out of Pittsburgh. They got the first round pick. They traded that for Marcus Pettersson. If you look at what he got compared to the open market for defensemen, they actually got it. And now, like that was a big issue last year. Last year they had like Vinny Desharnais and like some of these just absolute pylons who couldn't do anything on the back end and they kept being exposed. Now you've got one of the strongest defensive cores in the league with, Hronek and Hughes, and you've got, Myers and they just
Hronek
have like a solid, you've got a solid foundation back there. So I'm not worried about the Canucks defense. I'm worried more about can they score goals, but that again hinges on Pettersson.
To that point, right? People were always, they were saying when Ottawa traded DeBrincat to Detroit, Ottawa got nothing for him. Late first round pick and whatever, right? And it's like, yeah, but they used that late first round pick and Jonas Korpisalo to get Linus Ullmark.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you were, at a restaurant and it's like, here's your menu. Do you take Alex DeBrincat or do you take Linus Ullmark? Right? Like, but that doesn't necessarily fuel conversation on social media as well, right? You want definitive winners and losers, and that kind of nuance gets lost and moves like what you said, and like with the Marcus Peterson coming in.
Andrew, this is awesome. You're the best. We'll definitely get you back on throughout the season, and we'll see how things go. Please let my audience know where they can get a hold of all your stuff at the Hockey News, what your latest article is, and anything else you want to plug. I'll give you the last word here.
I'm back for another season writing for the Hockey News. Kind of when I feel like it. But it's thehockeynews.com/NHL/Ottawa. And you can also see great articles from Steve Warren, Graham Nichols, who's also one of the co-hosts of the Coming In Hot podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Sztein Creative with the SZTEIN. And if you happen to need a DJ anywhere in Southern Ontario, that's my full-time job. I'm going to break 70 weddings and 120 gigs this year. It's been a fun journey this year for that stuff. So, and